All right, good evening, everyone. So, welcome to this week market analysis and session over here. So, as usual, I'll run through the markets, highlight some of the opportunities available, okay, and I'll also be looking and check if you guys have any questions. Feel free to utilize the sessions to ask any questions you have. More than happy to actually help and answer them as well. All right. So let's start off with the dollar index over here. We are basically applying the principles of Elliott wave combining with the SMC model to get involved in trades, right? So basically we are using SMC for our setup phase and the Elliott wave principles as an overarching kind of direction. Okay, so dollar indexes of this week here, we are expecting the pullback to develop. We had this nice little impulsive drop, okay, just last week. And then of course prior to that, you can see we have the 1, 2, 3, so 3-wave completion, and then we're kind of expecting a significant pullback, right? So we did get a impulsive drop, and this week here we are anticipating some sort of a corrective pullback towards the key area here between the 50 and 618, so that will be around the 98.90 to 99.25 zone. And once price comes into this territory, this POI, we'll then be looking at an opportunity to sell it eventually, right? So this week, focus here will be primarily more on the short-term pullback, right? So we're kind of short-term bullish in anticipation and looking out for the upside for dollar index, okay? So with that said, we are then looking at some of the major pairs over here to do the pullback, right? So kind of like with dollar short-term strength, some of this major pairs were expecting downsides as well. Okay, so if you look at the euro dollar over here, currently what we have is for NFP, we did have that first impulsive move. Following that, the market did continue to go higher, but in a very, very corrective fashion. And oftentimes this would indicate some sort of a pullback or potential reversal, right? So this one here for the week, we are looking at the expectation where euro dollar can pull back towards again back the 50 and 618 zone at 1.1560 to 1.1520. Again, if you look left, that also coincides quite nicely to where the previous minor low is, right? So if this is in terms of Elliott wave pattern as a corrective crawl, oftentimes the market will come back and retest the low, and then from there take out liquidity and start to move higher. So euro dollar as of this week here, we are technically looking to short this as a near-term opportunity. And in fact, if we look into the hourly chart, I do personally have like a sell trade running since yesterday. Okay, I would say since Friday last week we got tagged in, and then yesterday the market did came down quite nicely. We managed to shift stops to break even, and then this kind of pull back as of today, right? So of course, ideally over here, we would love to see price continue move lower. My current target is at the 1.1605, which is to me quite conservative, right? We're basically aiming at this area. Again, if you look at the 4-hour time frame, that is room where price can actually go even lower. So of course, if this continue comes down impulsively, maybe by tomorrow I might have the opportunity to even go for extended target. We'll see. Okay. But of course, if the market just continue to push higher like this, and then we'll just get out at break even, right? Worst case scenario. Now, just to look at the alternative scenario here, if euro dollar were to just continue higher, technically the overall structure did not change. If this goes up correctively, we are still technically looking for that short-term push down. Okay, it's just probably get out at our break even as of this current trade, and then we'll just look for a next opportunity to sell it. Okay, so that's the update on the euro side of things. Now if you go over to the pound, pretty similar, right? So we have this pretty impulsive push. Right now we're expecting that pullback, and therefore, you know, this week here we are expecting that move to the downside. Okay, so short term opportunity to look for the sell. Now if you look at the lower time frame on the H1, okay, we do have not our typical kind of a setup, but we do have the previous liquidity sweep area as well, you know, and of course the change in state of delivery. The market came down with momentum. You can see market imbalance. It reacted off very nicely, and then it make another move, breaking of that structure, right? So at least on the hourly right now, it's pretty straightforward that we are in a bearish market structure, right? We have lower low, lower highs on the lower time frame, and of course, you know, we are looking at if price can continue to pull back towards the area at 1.3545, which, you know, we have a little bit of an order block here as well. We do have the failure gap here as well. Some nice little confluences. Okay, I would be interested to take that sell. Right, so of course we would love to see price not going back up too impulsively. Right, ideally we wanted to pull back correctively. That would give us a nice little sell trade. Again, this is a very conservative target. If you go back to the higher time frame, there is really quite a bit of a downside opportunity that we can capitalize on. Okay, so yeah, GBP USD is definitely another one that you want to have it in your watch list, because there might be an opportunity to sell it in the near term. Right, then moving into the Aussie pair. Aussie pair on the H4, right? We are looking at a very simple expectation in terms of a WXY structure, and we are looking at this being the first impulsive move. If we can get some sort of a corrective three-wave structure here, that would open up that sell side. Okay, so this one, the directional bias is bearish. However, right now I don't have a setup because I am expecting, you know, price to actually take out this minor high before we're gonna look to sell. Right, so from an Elliott wave perspective, that will be a 1-2 trade. Okay, so Aussie dollar, at least for this week, maybe not something that we can immediately kind of look for opportunity. But going into maybe next week, if price continue to develop as what we would anticipate, then there will be a short opportunity that we can focus on. Okay. Then moving on to the dollar Canadian. Dollar Canadian here, the pattern expectation or the structure expectation is basically a three-wave development. Right. I'm still leaning to this expectation over here. Of course, you can see we have a nice little impulsive push. If this is going to be a three-wave correction, then this area would present a buy. Okay. Why I would still lean towards the short-term sell here is really because this move is very corrective in nature, especially this part, right, when it's kind of testing the fit area at 618. So all this starts to stack up and give the odds where we can expect that push down towards the area at 1.3690. Okay. Now we can also use a very simple projection of a 1-to-1 leg, which would come, you know, pretty very close to that area as well, right? 1.3675. Okay. So yeah, we are expecting that. In fact, if again I bring you down to the lower time frame, we do have a trade running at the moment. Okay. Just got tagged in today. I haven't really shift stops to break even because you know, I would love to see price actually go down a little bit more, then we can start to manage to trade more actively. But the thing here is, of course, if this just continue to develop like that, structurally this is a crawl. The odds of this coming down, it's still there. So for me, I'm not so eager to kind of like squeeze this trade out. So I'm just really leaving the room for price to wiggle. So I'm open to the part where this can actually come out a little bit more, but of course, ideally, this shouldn't continue to climb too impulsively. If you're just going to develop correctively, I'm still quite confident in this particular trade. Okay. Yeah, so again, as I mentioned, I like what I'm seeing here. Price is actually coming out towards the key area, pretty corrective in itself. So that actually gave me the conviction that this trade, the odds are still there. Okay. So same thing here, right? If you take a look at this here, the target is just basically where that swing low is. But if you go back to the higher time frame, there is more downside opportunity that we can look into. Okay. Yeah, so that's on the dollar Canadian side of things. Then moving into the dollar yen. Dollar yen over here, basically what I'm looking at is a simple three wave structure, right? So from Elliott wave perspective, that is what we're looking at in expectation is a expanding flat. Okay, we have this as an impulsive move that's pretty clear, right? Carry huge momentum. You can see that. Right now the market seems to suggest that it's doing a 1, 2, 3, so that can be expanding flat, and therefore around 148.55 zone, which is basically just above this high here, can be the area that we look for a reversal down. Okay. So I don't think, again, this would be something within the week that we can look to execute, but very high chance maybe going into next week. This is something that we can have it in our watch list, right? So again, very similar to the Aussie dollar that I kind of mentioned earlier. It might not be an opportunity within this week, but that is something we can look into going into the following week. All right. Then the next one here we have XAU USD. So gold here, I'm actually expecting some sort of a pullback, and then a move lower, right? So if I zoom out a little bit, this is the pattern structure I'm expecting, right? 1, 2, 3, and then within the third wave here, we are looking at something like this, right? Not the most, I would say, not the clearest in terms of the pattern development. Okay, but of course you can see internally we have this crawl, we have this minor impulsive push, then another crawl. So if this is going to be corrective in nature, then we can look for a sell, right, where the market can come back and retest this zone. But for now, again, that is no clear setup building up as of this week. So this is something, again, very likely requiring a little bit more time, maybe going into like next week. Then that's where we get some decent setup that we can look into, right? But for now, probably nothing much on that. Okay. So yeah, going into silver, more or less the same here as well. We'll probably want to be patient. Okay. Wait for some sort of an impulsive break to the downside before we really commit to any particular trade. Market seems to be right now just consolidating here. I don't want to be jumping into any conclusion with that right now. Okay, so silver, I'll just put it aside. Next up, we have crude oil. Okay, so crude oil over here, again, from a structure perspective, we have this move down. Market seems to be slowing down, right? You can see here lacking the momentum already, which again suggests a potential reversal soon. And of course, this reversal here, we are anticipating a simple pullback towards some fit areas. This might open up some short-term buy opportunity. Of course, if we can get an impulsive leg breaking this high, then the pullback would give us a short-term buy, and then when it comes into this territory, we can look to sell it. But again, this would be something unlikely gonna develop within the week. So this is something maybe going into like next week, right? So again, have this put aside, maybe come back next week. Okay. S&P 500, we are definitely still bullish overall. but I'm expecting some sort of a pullback, right? I'm not so interested in selling the pullback as a short term, but I'll be more interested to wait for the pullback to complete and then look for the buy trade instead. Okay, so this week would very much be just the anticipation of the pullback, waiting for the pullback. And then the trade would likely only come to us next week. Okay. Then we have pound yen. Very much also a waiting game here in pound yen, right? Market is kind of testing the top after this push. So we'll want to see how the market is going to react. Okay, the expectation right now is a pullback. If you can get some sort of a corrective pullback, then this area will be a nice little buy opportunity. If the market starts to develop into a crawl here, okay, then we'll be shifting our short-term bias to sell. And then if we can get an impulsive drop here, okay, that will be a nice little sell trade. So things are moving right now. We'll probably just give it some time to develop and monitor it as it goes. Again, the setup would very unlikely be within the week. Okay. Then we have the Aussie yen. Aussie yen here is I would say, quite close to what we anticipate in terms of the dollar yen. Pattern structure is a little bit different, but the direction overall is the same, right? So short-term upside, then we'll look to sell. Aussie yen here as well, short-term upside, then we'll look to sell. The slight part that you probably just want to be aware of is while we're looking to look at sell opportunity here, price may not necessarily come back and retest this low, right? It can simply just be a simple 1, 2, 3. It may come deep into this territory, but then from there, this can then just bounce back up, right? So that's something that can develop. So of course, depending on the setup, depending on the strategy, you may not necessarily want to aim for huge downside. But yeah, I think this one, if we're gonna keep close on this, right? Today is Tuesday, so that's a very likelihood we might get something within the week. Right. So again, if I bring you down to the hourly, okay, we might get something here. There's a little bit of a confluence of it out the block, right? Of course, there's that fair value gap just below that as well. Okay. And then prior to that, we have some equal highs here. We have definitely this low gets taken out. We also have that low gets taken out. And so far, this pullback seems pretty corrective in nature, right? So overall, kind of liking this setup here. So definitely something to keep an eye on going into the later part of this week, right? On AUD yen. Cool. Yeah, so that's something that you can look out for as an new addition into the watch list. Then next up we have the pound AUD. Pound AUD over here, I would continue to be patient for now. Okay, with it successfully take out this high. So if kind of annotate a little bit, right, that will be a break of structure. Of course, we have this prior low being taken out very, very briefly, and then market kind of bounce back up. What we need as an extra layer of confirmation is this corrective pullback, right? If the market pulls back here correctively, you shouldn't come back too fast. We then can look for the outside. Okay. Now, obviously, this is not the easiest pair right now, because if you zoom really, zoom out to really look at things on the bigger scale of, picture here, we are within this range, right? So I'm not surprised if the market just goes back up here and then comes back down eventually. But having said that, this is still a very decent opportunity we can capitalize on, right? Yeah, so again, higher time frame sometimes doesn't necessarily means We always need to be in alignment, but sometimes higher time frame gives us the context in understanding when we take a trade, how far can we put our targets, right? Is this a kind of retracement trade? Is this kind of a short-term trade, or this is a pro-trend trade that we can be aggressive in our targets and things like that? Okay, so multi-time frame, higher time frame give us different point of view, and oftentimes I call that context, right? Okay, yeah, so this is the view on the pound odd. We'll just wait for the pullback and we'll see how things goes. Okay, then next up we have Bitcoin. Bitcoin was interesting because, earlier last week, we did see, it breaking all-time high, and everyone was pretty excited about it. And then the market just kind of like very, very quickly reverses to the downside, right? So if you take a look at the pattern structure overall development, okay, I'm not going to be surprised if the market decides to just pull back from here, and then after the pullback phase, right, give us another push lower to break that swing low before we eventually start moving higher. I'm not going to be surprised on that because, again, when everyone's jumping in, the market tends to go the opposite direction. And this move is very impulsive in nature, right? You can see that is huge momentum there as well. So I would say short term, if you're looking to trade, okay, so short term you can consider, if this pulls back, maybe look for sell opportunity. If you're kind of looking to add into your buy position, then I mean, you can look for buy here, and of course just be cautious that this can reverse. I would say a more interesting area to look for buy would definitely be here, right? Okay, because that's the expectation, something like that, and then the push back up. Yeah, so this area is somewhere around 111.8, okay, 111,800 level, right? So that would be my take on BTC. Okay. Yeah. So overall, again, quick summary of what we went through, what to look out for the week. In terms of opportunities and trade setups, would be those that are flagged. Obviously some of this I'm already in a trade with stocks shifted to break even, like euro dollar. I'm already in the sell side of things, right? Let's see how this goes. GBP USD, I'm looking to potentially execute a sell here. Okay, again, these are all pending orders, right? If I can get a corrective pullback maybe by tomorrow, going into Thursday as well, the entry point is somewhere around 1.3545. Okay, stops above, targets below there. That will be a potential sell trade. Dollar Canadian, right, is another one that we talk about. So this one I'm already in the trade, haven't really shift stops to break even. So again, if you are interested, you might get an opportunity to get involved again. Okay, on the sell side of things. And then lastly, we did talk about Aussie yen potentially again, maybe going closer towards the end of this week, right? We might get something for Aussie yen. Good. Yeah, so any questions that you guys have, just drop it in, right? If not, then more or less that's the update for the week. Definitely more activities and more opportunities that we can keep an eye on compared to like last week, right? So last week was pretty quiet. Okay, all good. No question. Then generally that's about it for today's update. All the best, and I'll see you guys in the next session. Yeah. Good night.